Hello everyone, my name is Emily and welcome back to my homestead and week 3 part 2 of the Three Rivers Pantry Challenge. In the past week we've gotten quite a bit of snow. The kids had a few snow days and we spent at least 4 days clearing and moving snow around the property. And this bench you see here I had measured 8 inches earlier in the week. And then we cleared that off, and now this time I'm measuring an extra over 13 inches. So it was a great time to spend indoors doing that tortilla project you saw in the last video and doing some other baking projects. Here my daughter and I made some cinnamon rolls. This was our first time making cinnamon rolls, and it was a fun project and easier than we expected it to be. It's just some simple confectioner sugar and milk to make a little glaze to go on top of them, and they were delicious. For one of our dinners this week, I started out with getting that acorn squash out of the fridge and another one out of the basement pantry. They each had a couple spots that were starting to go bad, and I just wanted to get them used up so we could still use part of them. I was pleasantly surprised when I cut them open that they were still mostly usable. I only had a few spots that I ended up cutting off, and that all went to the chickens, as well as these seeds that I'm scooping out. You can see here I'm cutting off those pieces that are a little soft, that we don't want to include in our meal. I oiled these, and then I'm putting them face down in a casserole dish to bake in the oven. And now we're going to get our chicken ready. This is one of our pasture-raised chickens that we grew last spring. And we're going to coat it in some spices and some salt, a little bit of sugar, and I like to get it up underneath the skin to get some more flavor directly into the meat. And then we're going to stick this in the oven as well to cook alongside the acorn squash. Usually add a few pads of butter inside the chicken and then a few more on top. Helps get the skin nice and crispy and brown by the end of the baking time. So here we go. There's a beautiful bird with some pureed acorn squash. We added some cinnamon, butter, and brown sugar to that. And here's some of those crescent rolls that you saw in the fridge tour in the last video. And the kids love those crescent rolls. The next day I used the leftover acorn squash in a pumpkin muffin recipe, and they turned out really delicious. Unfortunately, the dogs knocked them off the counter while I was outside moving snow, and the kids didn't get to try them. I did successfully get to feed the kids some of this bread. It was my most successful attempt so far. It was nice and fluffy and it had a good texture, and my son actually made some sandwiches with it. For dinner this night, I'm making chicken noodle soup using some home canned chicken broth. We're using the leftover chicken from the previous night's dinner. And here I've got a full-sized carrot I'm chopping up, as well as a couple bags of mini carrots my daughter had brought home with her school lunch that she hadn't finished. And I'm glad to get these used up and out of the fridge while they're still good. We're going to get all of this into the pot with the broth and have that cook down till they're nice and tender before we add the rest of the ingredients to the pot. Meanwhile, we will start chopping up an onion, and this onion will get sauteed in a separate pan with some olive oil until they turn pretty well clear. It'll add a little extra flavor to the soup rather than just sticking them in raw. And here is some garlic. It had been in our fridge tour in the last video. It was past its prime, and so you can see there's some spots on it. I'm going to cut all those spots off so that we can just use the good parts and get that out of the fridge and used up. Now, I do not have very good knife skills, so don't expect to learn anything from me about how to chop things up. I'm just doing the best I can. And we'll add that garlic to the onions when they're just about finished cooking. We don't want to add it too early or it could burn. And then we're going to add the noodles to the boiling broth when the carrots are just about finished cooking. We will add the onions and garlic as well. And then some spices. I added thyme and some salt. And then we add the leftover chicken as well as about half a bag of Swiss chard I had in the freezer from the 2022 garden season. Get that all mixed up, and then we like to eat our soup out of giant mugs. It just makes it a little more fun and cozy feeling. Everyone gets a great big mug to eat their soup out of. This was a nice big pot of soup, which gave us plenty for leftovers the next night. And this time I served it with biscuits to mix it up a bit. Now we're going to try to make some chicken chili. I've never actually made chicken chili before, but I was trying to come up with something to use more things out of the pantry and more of that leftover chicken that we roasted earlier in the week. So I've got some white Great Northern beans, some home canned tomatoes, and tomato paste that I'm bringing up from the downstairs pantry. Now we're going to chop up some onion. We'll get this sauteing in a pan with a little bit of olive oil until it's nice and tender. And then we will add in this garlic. This is the last of the garlic that was in the fridge, and I'm cutting off the unusable bits so we can get the rest of this used up and out of the fridge. Here I've got the onion in the pan. I added the chicken and warmed that up a bit, and now we're going to add the rest of the ingredients. So first is the tomato paste. This is a trick my mom taught me, to open the can on both ends and then just push it out. And then we get that all mixed up and get the tomato paste coated all over the meat and onions. This will add a deeper tomato flavor to the dish. And we add in the tomatoes, the beans, the garlic that we chopped up earlier, as well as the spices. I used paprika, cumin, chili powder, parsley, salt, and pepper. We get this all mixed up and let it simmer for about 20 minutes to get all the flavors melded together. And there it is. We had enough of this to have leftovers the next night. And some of us added sour cream, some of us used tortilla chips with it. And it was a nice hearty meal to end our week with. Thank you for watching, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. Bye!